Mandy Smoker,
Thank you.
all the way from someplace out there,
Montana.
Montana.
Yep. Thank you. It's so good to be here. Um, Thinking so much about Bob and just missing him. I'm going to read this first poem. It's called The Book. Well, I should say my first book of poems was published by Hang Loose in 2005, which is hard to believe, and forthcoming second collection. The Book of the Missing, Murdered, and Indigenous, Chapter 1, for Natalie Smoker. The winding cord of highways, unkempt gravel roads, and the trails of animals. A record of who and what has passed over. An agony of secrets. In the end, they have all borne witness, eyes like glass beads that can never blink. The dull light of motel neon shines ominously. An engine growls across the landscape. Brittle men who are splintered like glass thrown from a second-story window, and we are the room they leave behind. They are pathetic husks, feeble in spirit. Fragments fall along fields and shallow ditches, in overlooked alleyways or underpasses. A cold, empty breeze rising from the debris, the first and last moments of her. It is rage that pulls her up from this place. She spews out the wretched and miserable as particles of dawn-lit soil illuminate her skin. Her hair is a two-edged sword. She stitches together the collective story of origin, her body a map, descended from the stars, on the backs of animal sisters, carried to safety in a bird's beak. And this last one's called Heart Butte, Montana. The unsympathetic wind, how she has evaded me for years now, leaving a guileless shell and no way to navigate. Once, when I stood on a plateau of earth, just at the moment before the dangerous, jutting peaks converged upon the lilting sway of grasslands, I almost found a way back. There, the sky, quite possibly all the elements, caused the rock and soil and vegetation to congregate. Their prayer was not new and so faint I could hardly discern. Simple remembrances like a tiny syncopated chorus calling everyone home across 1,000 eastward miles. And what little wind was left at my back, I could not move, and then the music was gone. All that was left were the springtime faces of mountains gazing down, their last patches of snow, luminous. I dreamed of becoming snowmelt, gliding down the slope and into the valley, with the promise and assurance that there is always a way to become bird, tree, water again. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Mandy. Yeah. And next reader is Pablo Medina, whose book is
Hi,
hot off the presses.
hot off. I can't wait to get my hands on a copy. This poem is a New Year's poem. I thought it would be appropriate to read a New Year's poem. It's called Melancholy Baby, and it is from Sea of Broken Mirrors, which is, as Dick said, hot off the presses. Melancholy Baby. Every New Year's is the same. I build things up. I eat bad food. I drink champagne, which I don't like. And then I kiss and wish, and nothing comes. Next day, I rummage through the house and find the manifest of the ship of my destiny, All the passengers are gone or about to go. If I write, the words are clumsy before the desert sea ahead. If I read, I'm soon bored and fall asleep. I wish I had a pet I could feed or stroke, but my last pet died upside down of neglect. So have all the plants I've ever owned. I live with silverfish who eat my books. Plenty of food here till I die. Probably on the couch, waiting, while my friends outside bang the door and sing Melancholy Baby and dance away the stars. One more poem. It's called Home Alert Castle. The place you're in defers to a curving road, and a translation announces you aren't home. Fang is not bread, not ease is not nose, pes is not fish. Language is your only home. Your share of emotional quotients paints a myriad versions of memory's home. Love and betrayal cancel the dunes where the river meets the sea away from home. A boat adrift in the swelling waves means no roots, means no sap, means no home. Tranquility made a name of silence. Childhood exists only at home. Dishwasher loaded, classical music playing, wildflowers bundled, as if this were home. Yesterday, soup and crackers, tonight, the moon. Darkness is no place like home. Poet, arise and listen to the cricket's song in the templates of hope, the ruins of home. Thank you.
Okay, Pablo.
Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you. Okay. And next, Joel Lewis. Here he is.
And thank you, Dick.
Great.
And thank you, Hanging Loose, for your support through the years. I'm going to be reading 3 poems from my forthcoming book, Well You Needn't, which is a collection of prose and poems about music, mostly jazz. Most of the titles, including the title of the book, come from song titles. First one is called But Beautiful. Stan Getz, at his best, seemed to play his audience's dreams, masculine lushness dappled with bay rum cologne. He also did interesting things, like bringing the bossa nova to pre-Beatles American ears, canned sidemen who farted while soloing, and holding up Rexalls with a water pistol. The drug-addled Stan blew that heist as the petite cashier ignored the junk jittery Gonif and waited on the wants of an elderly Filipino gent. But why worry that misdemeanor? His incredibly lovely sound stays in the air of this secessionist February morning. It makes me think of Lucky Strikes, the texture of gabardine, and cracked ice melting in a fingerprint mark snifter. Asked by Edward R. Murrow for the secret behind that sound, Stan sighed as he replied, "When I see things through my eyes, I see things." Sessionography, which is a collector's and historians thing where they notate recording sessions and the records that were recorded in that particular session. Tonight I cannot sing, but fear to weep. So I doff a Mr. B collared shirt to balm my nerves, and nerves they are, and they've been that way generations back to my Galatian forerunners, sullenly tending to a sorrel patch. And what do I really know from Ben Webster, except that he enjoyed beating people up, which gained him the nickname Brute? He wept, though by his schnapps-heavy Copenhagen dotage, he wept lakes just thinking about mother, earning him a tag that was Danish slang for big old crybaby. Ben Webster and I share the same yearning for uncluttered melodic improvisation, except that my axe is a fountain pen filled with peacock blue ink. Jersey bound, I rise up from a subway hellhole and spy a reality star tearing up in a Chamber Street dollar store. And it makes me think back to that Scandic night when the brute handed a kid Archie Shep a box of Rico Royal Reeds, complete with the stern admonition, "Kid, get some more vibrato."
Yeah.
And the origin of my social marginalization. 12 minutes countdown to the 8:15 St. George boat. So I walk over to that enormous Starbucks at Pearl and State. Inside, I hear the sinuous flute break from California Dreaming dripping from the sound system. Then think, that's Bud Shank. He a magus of West Coast jazz, later a first call studio stalwart who could read fly shit on staff paper, the ultimate kudo among his peers. I then realize how cursed I am with a particular knowledge which sets me apart from coworkers, neighbors, and August luckless latte sippers who listen to the same canned goods thinking, that's the mamas and papas, and see a brain kinescope of Michelle Phillips in a miniskirt. I then realize myself doubly cursed and estranged, aware that the present row of State Street's postmodern towers were once rooming houses for my landslide, cleared for entry and hot off the Ellis Island ferry, spending their first night alone in this drab new world. Thank you.
Joel, thank you. I always try to take your advice, so I think I am going to try to lose some of that vibrato. Okay, Karen Kovacik. Oh, Karen, how am I saying your last name? Kovacik. Is that right?
That's right.
Kovacik. Okay, good. You're up.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Hey, everybody. I'm glad to join you and glad to listen to all of you. I'm going to start with a title poem from my book that's coming out this fall. And it was inspired by the Chinese artist Yin Shuzhen, who makes these sculptures out of luggage and calls them portable cities. So this is me imagining what my adopted city of Indianapolis would look like in such a suitcase. Portable city. My city fits in a suitcase, all steeples and spires, white river zipped up for the night. When I open my city, I hear the slow jazz of a dozen waiting rooms. Inside, there's high humidity. My staid navy swimsuit dreams of chlorine. Tiny war memorials spin through the air like chess pieces. You never know what will fly out of my suitcase. It has its own airport, planes, and terrorists. It bulges like a B-movie bomb. In Paris, my city smelled like French fries and Big Macs. In Beijing, it swelled to panda size. In Venice, the gondolier refused it. Sometimes I open the case in public like an aunt on a park bench, folding up the lawns in cute little squares, slipping the strip malls and parking lots into side pockets. My city can never be too neat. You won't find graffiti there, but you'll see race cars lapping each other and peace pipes unsmoked for 100 years. More than once, I schemed to ditch my city, to forget it in the trunk of a cab or watch it orbit for half an hour on some airport's black belt. Instead, I cling to its leash. Heel, I yell. Stand, stay. At home, I hoist my city onto the bed to see what earthquakes have wrought. Hooray, the city still stands, though its one-way streets heave this way and that. My hands tunnel through underwear like the subway cars my city never had. Nights when sewer grates weigh down my lids like tin coins, I plumb the hollows where only bone resides. Bone that speaks Miami or Delaware, bone among beach pillars in the rain. And my last poem is Treadmill with Virtual Active Trademark, Swiss Alps. Last night, I raced around Venice, Los Angeles the day before, and today I'm fending off grief on a trail that climbs above the tree line, gray world of lunar rock and lichens. Up ahead, the Matterhorn gives off an iridescent chill. Shelley and Byron saw mountains as metaphors, phallic, untamable crags, all bluster and danger, topped by berets of clouds. They liked their climbs with a chaser of terror. But I'm too old to threaten suicide when my lover screws up, take a bear as a roommate, pile on clothes to make myself sweat, or crash diet on biscuits and wine. Besides, I've outlived the romantics anyhow. Mine's a different Matterhorn, slog through life's long middle, like a mountain goat on a carousel, or this belt churning under my feet. Mount continuous, not Mount new. Yet I'm too young to stop pretending. Einstein dreamed up relativity while a patent clerk at Bern. I'm a body in motion and time, eyes blurred by lightning, hair a nest of electrons in the summer funk. At the end, you shivered like a calf, quads too weak to bear your spine. I helped you over that mountaintop. Now I walk and walk and walk to get back down. Thanks.
Oh, deep breaths. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Karen. And now Maria Dillon Himmelman. Here she is somewhere.
I'm right here.
Okay. Oh,
Hi, thank you, Dick. Thank you, everyone at Hanging Loose, and thanks to my fellow poets reading tonight. What a great bunch of poems I'm hearing. It's an honor to be in this company. All right, I'm just going to read some poems. They're all pretty short, so there's 4 of them. The Real McCoy. Rum running is the act of smuggling liquor over water. Bootlegging refers to smuggling liquor over land. Brazenness and optimism, while not official terms, apply to the man who took a flask of the Fuhrer's finest cognac straight from the eagle's nest, and years later poured it into a small silver cup to toast the guests at his eldest son's bar mitzvah. After they bury me, I suppose they'll toast my unparalleled capacity for wasting time, or my proclivity for spinning wild yarns. Of my soufflés, they will say what they must. I'm not one to traffic in pedigree, but I'd like it mentioned that William McCoy, no relation, was a devoted family man and never watered the hooch. Uncork the best bottle, pour your finest brandy, raise a glass to this life in which strangely each day somebody dies. This is this too is off the record. Of course, I wanted to see where the oceans meet. Find me a good paparazzo who doesn't. This is news that breaks like a wave, a scandal that churns, a wild tangle between the lusty silt of the Indian and the cool longing of the frigid Atlantic. Months on that boat, miserable dinghy, barely seaworthy, and to say nothing of the boredom and spoiled wine that was no balm for ambition. Imagine my disappointment dropping anchor at the edge of the continent, only to have a shrill, bent woman click her tongue to tell me in Kosa that the oceans are shy, their exchanges private, while behind her, the water became frantic and tried to blend in with the sky. A thin membrane. Though she never spoke of it, I knew she had a glass eye. But to confirm, I asked her to touch her right eye without flinching. To prove that my inquiry was innocent, I raised my finger and pressed it into my own eye, only to learn that the landscape outside my skull is a wilted field, pocked with small, clucking birds in search of tiny kernels of corn, none of them the least bit concerned with the sky or its falling. And the last one, Dinner with the Oligarch. His mother is no longer crouched in a tiny birch house, eating potatoes under dim country light. She is in London now, tableside with her son, the donkey, in a stable-sized dining room, smoothing his silk suit while he snorts and breathes through stained, crooked teeth. His wife, the thoroughbred, wears a plate of jewels bridled across her delicate chest. Her 4 well-groomed ponies stand by her side, while we, the guests, sit palm on palm, silent at the shrine of his half-drunk glass of apple brandy.
Thank you. Great to see you again. Okay, Carlie Hoffman. Oh, this stuff is amazing. Carlie.
Hi, hi everyone. So I'm going to read a translation from the German of the poet Selma Meerbaum-Eisinger, who I translated, and the book is coming out with Hanging Loose Press. And I just wanted to show you this is like a first edition of in the German of her book. And Selma, she was the younger cousin of Paul Celan. She was a Jewish poet from the Bukovina, and she died in the Holocaust in a concentration camp. And she wrote these poems while living in the ghetto in Czernowitz. And the manuscript somehow it survived. And so I'm really looking forward to publishing with Hanging Loose. So thank you. I'll read this poem called Late Afternoon. Long shadows fall on the lighted path, and the sun sends the goodbye of final warmth. And even the bird's veiled chirp is stealing from silence. People 10 paces away seem to come from different worlds, and you almost want to scold the withered leaves as they rustle and disturb the sun's last rays. You want to hear the violets grow. And I will also read Afternoon. Thin twigs like otherworldly veils emerge from slender birch trunks, and the silence ceremonial, as if shielding the sky from the rapture of birdsong. Muddy brown paths and a blossoming tree discovers this new world. Grass barely sprouts, all the firs regreen, and a papery yellow butterfly dares to rest on a sun-drenched bench. This does not suit a green fly at all. Isn't the sun only for me? Only tips of the blackthorn whisper, no. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Carlie. And next, Barbara Henning. I got so excited when I found we're going to publish Barbara's book. Wow. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm going to read from this manuscript called Girlfriend, which are prose pieces that follow my childhood friends through my 75 years. And I'm going to read 3 from early times. Linda and Barb, 2 infants in the arms of 2 sisters, 2 little girls at a big dining room table writing notes in a secret language. The streetcar rumbles past. Ude, uye, ave, aye, igoretske. Grandma smells a match. Under the covers, we hide from the one we love most. 8 years old and hitchhiking on Alter Road. She pulls us back inside. We are only playing, we insist. She gives us what we never had at home, orange juice and blueberry muffins. 10, 11, 12, we meet in the mall and on the street. I admire your performance. of all the swear words in one long stream. 67, you are the bride, I am the maid of honor. Hair in a bouffant, hair in a French twist, lace and violets, your garter, my garter, your marriage, my rebel, your drunk sailor, my sashaying pool shark, your little girl, my little girl, the suburbs, the city, office work, teacher work, many miles between us. But today you stretch out on my daybed knitting little secret patterns, so adept with those needles, the scarf flowing over the edge of the bed and onto the floor. You look up at me writing in my notebook. You and Bobby, you say, could always read so fast. Marilyn Myers. One day you gave our 10th grade English class at East Detroit High School a different kind of assignment. No other teacher had ever asked me to write a poem. We didn't read much poetry in school. There was one collection of poems in our house. I read all of those. I read the Reader's Digest books and most of the Mark Twain books that my great-grandfather had left me, as well as most of the fiction in the school library. One day you taught us how to write haiku, and the day after I brought my poem to class, you read it out loud and praised it as an excellent example. I never before felt recognized in school. Then you suggested I join the yearbook staff. I remember I wrote something about a falling leaf. In autumn, I used to lie under the maple tree in our yard and watch the leaves fall. Maybe if I meditate on you and the tree and write one now, it will be the same haiku, even though 59 years have passed. I sit in Padmasana, close my eyes until I'm calm. Then I come to the computer and write. Just a gentle breeze, and the maple leaf breaks loose, falling, fleeing, gone. Probably it was something like this, something simple, something indicating gone, since I had not seen my mother for 4 years, then fleeing because I counted the days until I could leave home. Eventually I did leave and I became a poet, but I wrote my first poem in your class. It's a couple years later. Lucy. We both worked for Fagel Pop Company on Gratiot Avenue in Detroit. I was a secretary for the sales department and you were working in accounting. You were tall, slim, and black. I was tall, slim, and white. We used to go out to lunch together. You still lived at home with your family, and at the time, I was sharing a flat with a roommate. I had my grandfather's old Dodge and you took the bus. Sometimes we took the bus together. Sometimes I would drop you off at home. I remember you would huddle down in the seat so no one would see you as we drove through the city together. We both liked to shop, and instead of eating lunch, every so often we'd go to Hudson's department store. I don't know where you are now or what happened to you. We were only friends while I worked at Fagel. Sometimes you show up in my dreams when I'm back in that office. We once imagined going on a long-distance trip together, maybe down south. But this was 1969, not long after Martin Luther King was assassinated, and we were afraid to drive out of the city in the same car together. But I remember we imagined it, and then we decided not to do it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Barbara. Oh, man. And now, Starr Davis, whose book will be next year's Founders Award.
Well, this year now.
Oh, wait a minute. What year is this now?
Yes, I'm so excited. Thank you all so much. Wow, I feel really honored to be here. There's so many amazing poets here. I just feel like a little tadpole in this sea. So I'll read my first poem right now in the manuscript. This is called Ars Poetica on Masters. Love opens into another kind of world, a place my girl child finds her color is the sun's favorite, a place she finds the black of my nipple is spring, a place their cicada song drowns out the voice of God. A place, the rumble of his car engine dismantles all faith. A place, her cry opens a place in the crevice of my neck. Love opens its mouth only to say, have her back by 4. The girl child becomes object, and love opens into another kind of dangerous act that requires prayer. Girl child finds the earth of her co-author's eyes to be a place too tricksome to trust, a place where she is exchanged under a Texan sun from one car to next, a place that only diamonds can be forged and swords refined, a place her tongue is discovered and her hands reach for me, a place I become animal, risky, apprehensive, and she becomes cub, ferocious, wild. Love opens into a kind of government, a place where I look my abuser in the eye and hand him over the flesh we created. This becomes poetry, a place where hands once around my throat become hands that balances girl child in one and diaper bag in other, a place where she cannot see that I am no longer mommy. I am Lavania, without hands or tongue or breast milk or answers, but just a woman closing in around herself. So there's that. And my second poem, which is I'm so excited that this is now the title of the book. This is called Affidavit. There's a series of these, so I'm really excited about this one. Affidavit number 1. I confirm I have never known any fathers. I do not know this one. Our union, like permission when it is not given, or communion when it is not blessed, was the closest I had ever come to trusting. The man I called father had fathered me once from prison. His apostolic letters ministered to a place inside me that was animal. When you are Black, you want to know what kind of slave your ancestors became. Conquerors or complacent, killers or just killed. My father told me nothing, just a few lines to a story like a page torn out from an old book. Once he was released, no longer my pastor on paper, he gave me his eyes and then a number he never answered. He had never fathered again after that. We remain in good counsel as good friends, both of us being so experienced at abandonment, the common bread we break is stale. Thus, my child knows no father, the way in which my inner child knows no authority, the way in which the petitioner knows no love, the way in which the dead knows no place, or a slave no name, or these eyes no stars, or my spirit no truth outside the sun or moon being constant and everything else ever changing. And like Ishmael, who had never known his father outside the rose milk of a single mother's prayer, my child will too come to know an inheritance that only comes with a fatherless blessing. I certify the last text I received from the petitioner was in blood. The last child support payment was enough for a glass of wine. The last father I had was a false prophet. I am afraid of a second coming. Thank you.
Oh, another deep breath. Thank you, Starr. And Paula Cisewski. Did I say it right?
Yeah, thank you. Hi.
Hi.
I'm also just so super happy and honored to be here and to be joining the Hanging Loose family community party. So thank you so much. The first poem I'll read is American Tangle, #1. Waiting for the bank's drive-through teller to greet me from a screen, I realized I hadn't brought my cell along on errands. A little jolt of what if something happens, followed by a minor chord of disgust. Something we don't yet understand entangles us, an obstacle to our collective, to our convening. Artificial mycelium, cell tower, fairy rings everywhere, unlike in a forest, a living being feeds the roots of trees, even as it feeds on them. Sounds okay from here, above ground, dare I say, rootless, often distracted by my lack of a pocket device with which I would be, at best, be doing what? Devising tonight's distraction or asking an app to direct my lost internal sense of some people with theirs write whole manifestos on the light rail. And does it matter? I don't know exactly where I am when I text loved ones from my device rather than bother them by leaving my voice on their device is such a tidy word devised with an intent, also difficult to keep pushing out of my mind. That metal for mine was mined by slaves. It's so disappointing when things are right there in the language and I live oblivious. Like recently, I had to visit a museum to learn the ground bones of buffalo strengthened colonists' bone china cups and saucers at high tea. I have come to find working within a net of multiple errors is an anxious passion, never not some obstacle to repair, recombine, revision, or just while distracted to drop and shatter the screen of again. Damn it. Device vines down from Old French device, and before that from vulgar Latin divisare, in both cases meaning division or to divide. My device performed more slowly than yours, so goodbye, I guess forever, becomes a true story to share with strangers. Okay, I do get the irony of reading a like anti-device poem in this wonderful reading where we're all on our devices, and it's the best. This is called What Was Your First Concert? My first concert was a red leaf. My first concert was Waiting for a Ghost in the Woods, or the tiny motor that runs your wealth. Once I was addicted to absence, thief of everything green, batting at nothing that's visible to me. My first concert was a cricket in a matchbox, a chorus of masking and unmasking so loud you didn't have to think. Horn section swaying in shark skin, my first concert was a tree-lined sunset impression smeared on the mirror of the river and the current, a goodbye underneath. A song from memory comes on the radio and time's accordion folds squeeze in, or the door slams shut on the moment and everything goes white. I was singing along to stay alive. My first concert was a hammock swaying greenless leaves. How is it you make me want to repeat everything? Everything. My first concert was seeking a second heartbeat, unapologetic, undaunted by a missed leap.
You. Hey. Ah, what a wonderful evening. Okay. Indran Amirthanayagam, you're up.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to publishing a new book with Hanging Loose. My first publisher back in 1993, The Relevance of Reckoning, and now this new book called Seer. I'll read two poems from the book, forthcoming book, and then two poems from sort of our times today. Time present. There will be time, the poet said, to murder and create. And I grew up thinking I would stop the sea as well as bake a few thousand cakes that sing and dance on the tongue and murder only cockroach and snake. But I cannot sift and pass, make concessions and compromise for the rest of my days. I must choose a path, be true to some plan, show resolve and purpose. If not, I would be deemed mercurial, humid, a human folly, not a computer or a stable figure, a steady captain on deck to recite, O captain, my captain, over the raging sea. But help me out. May I still kill the roach while arguing for sustainable living, long-term conservation of the ecosystem? If they are unseen, insidious, what options do I have but to bleach microbes who wish to invade me? They do not come coated with love, flapping wings of turtle doves. But perhaps they offer me release, an early exit from the stifling, overheating fishbowl, once a gentle trade-winded cul-de-sac. Claptrap, remind myself of the Big Bang, and later in geologic time, flaming rocks the size of the Empire State, destroying the carnivorous, malevolent Tyrannosaurus. Let me go back to dust with that earlier predator. How easy to pull off the calm veneer, especially when trafficking in words. Damn this, I'm going for a walk. The sun is shining and the winds are calm today. Who knows when the first hurricane of the Atlantic season will roar through the COVID-infested atmosphere. Get communing with nature when I can, but keep distant from neighbors. Not a problem, the grand illusion, faith in tomorrow, conserving one's health. I must keep that idea circulating for babies arriving today, kids waiting for treats at the next Halloween, and old men and women whose fronds were blessed yesterday on Palm Sunday with the gift of memory during this COVID year, whose collateral benefits include digging into the attic of the mind, finding photographs, sharing them with any household members, and online. Love and milk. When the tabby crawls under the fence and prowls on the back patio, hunting for mice and voles, sparrows and cardinals. When my daughter visits her northern home in Maryland from faraway Paraná, a snowbird looking for snow during her Christmas holiday, the tabby and all his neighborhood cousins get a sweet additional treat, a saucer of warm milk. My daughter is the bearer of milk. The rest of the year, the tabbies adjust to their usual practice, but I love the lesson my daughter teaches in feeding the tabbies. I will do so now, not only in these verses. Pull out a bowl from the cupboard, fill it with almond milk. And now, two recent poems. Elegy for the Extended Family. Mosab, reading your post today of the dead from an airstrike in Khan Yunis, cousins, uncles, aunts, 6 members of your extended family, 6 degrees that separate us. I felt at first I did not have words to console, but now these have come. They are not grand or clever, but spring from the heart. Today, your friends and I, readers throughout the world, we too have lost 6 members of our family, and we will mourn for 40 days, mark every anniversary, lay flowers at our altars where we live on the planet which grieves as well, another chemical, self-induced abomination on the patrimony we inherited and continue to destroy. Now finish with mourning children, tyrant. Nobody will mourn you, tyrant, when you're gone, when the coffin lowers into the grave. Nobody will visit the memorial, and there will need to be guards placed on each corner to avoid some unpleasantness, desecration of the holy word. The people will complain as well about the cost of upkeep, and they will ask, what did you bring them besides national guilt and shame? Yes, some are up in arms and defiant about how well your army has broken enemy children, their limbs and mothers, just like they did to our precious blood. The joy of disproportionate revenge, all buildings crumpled to ash heaps of bones, and the remaining muttering, terrified civilians gathered at the border waiting for no rescue ship or plane. This has happened before at Nandi Kadal or the killing fields in Auschwitz, where liberators came a little too late, 6 million Jews and other minorities butchered. In Gaza now, 1 in every 150 kids dead from bombs, guns, murder. For what? I ask, along with the journalist, conveyor of news, good and bad, truth unvarnished, bug-eyed, terrified, wondering when the next airplane will fly overhead and rain down its cargo on earth. The unfortunate innocents in the target range. When will the tyrant's tomb be removed from public view? Give me year, date, crosshairs of the inscription to be wiped away. Thank you.
Oh, powerful, as always. Great to see you. This has been just wonderful. And I think, yeah, we're almost finished. And our next reader and our final reader is our friend. We've been friends for about 150 years, I think, Sherman Alexie.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, Hanging Loose first published me in the magazine in 1988. So I've been publishing with them for 36 years. I was only barely able to drink legally when you first published me. So,
Yeah.
And it was from my first poetry class. So, going to read a couple poems here. And the first one is called The Ghost That Walks the Bridge. Last night as I traveled from Newark Airport into Manhattan, I thought to call Bob, my poetry editor in Brooklyn, to let him know that I'd arrived. I'd made that same call dozens of times during my literary career. But I couldn't make that call last night because Bob isn't alive to answer the phone. He died 2 years ago. So I asked my driver to cross to the other side of Manhattan and drive north on the FDR so I can see the Brooklyn Bridge. It's a serious detour and will cost me more, but I suddenly know that greeting the bridge will be my new way of letting Bob know that I've arrived. Hello, Bridge. Hello, Brooklyn. Hello, Bob. Dear Bob, I know you didn't believe in ghosts, but I'm going to change you into a ghost, walking your Brooklyn Bridge. You loved that bridge. And I love the thought of you being irritated that I've transformed you into a ghost. Sherman, you'd say, you know, I don't believe in this shit. But then you'd pause, consider the implications of ghosthood, and realize that you get to walk the Brooklyn Bridge for the rest of time. And then you'd smile and make plans. Bob, I'm going to pretend that your ghost spends his days and nights whispering poems into the ears of strangers on the bridge. I'll pretend that you especially enjoy whispering to the serious, tight-ass poets of New York City. Hey, you'll say to them, the world is corrupt, barren, and busted, but it's also superb and bursting with so much goddamn beauty that the whole goddamn world becomes the Brooklyn Bridge illuminated by 1,000 lights. And buddy, you better learn before you die that everything is fucking hilarious. Especially the afterlife. The crossing. Who knows why certain memories stay with us? When I was 10 or 11, our car broke down on a low green bridge. That was nothing special. Our cars often broke down. Barely bothered, I sat in the back seat, read my book, and wondered if I could finish it before one of our mechanic cousins arrived to save us. But then I looked up from the pages and saw white people floating on inner tubes down the little Spokane River toward the bridge. Curious, I stepped out of the car and stood at the railing. One of the floating white guys saw me watching. He smiled and waved. I waved back. He pointed at the blue sky above us and laughed. His joy was so luminous that I thought I might cry. And here's the last one. Our failed rock band. We broke up before we wrote a note. Driving now, I hum in baritone. We would have been a duo that trafficked in slow and noisy depression. Or maybe we would have been a trio. I'm not sure. I daydream about being good enough to play a show at my college where all the Catholic girls who never paid attention to me would be surprised by my talent and jump on stage and share the mic with me. We'd sing together. Of course, in order for that to happen, our band would have needed to play cover songs, songs on the radio, songs that Catholic girls would know by heart. And looking back, it seems that I mostly had crushes on the Catholic girls who were genuinely Catholic, the ones who went to Mass on college Sundays, even though their parents weren't there to make them go. I loved the believers even as I disbelieve. Of course, my bandmates, both of whom never went to college and were utterly devoted to slow and noisy depression, would have rebelled against my desire to play top 40 hits. So we would have broken up anyway because of creative differences. And the Catholic girls would walk by me again because I would have been a no-hit wonder. And where are my theoretical bandmates now? One works in forestry. He would have been the lead singer. And one works the family farm. He would have been the drummer. They work with their hands. They touch the earth while I sit in parking lots and write poems in my Subaru. I'm still a non-believer in God, but I always attend services in the Church of Nostalgia. There you'll find me singing along with the hymn book. Don't forget, I intone. Please, as you grow older, don't forget the failed dreams that ache like a broken shoulder in the cold.
Oh, thank you, Sherman.
To be here. And the book that Hanging Loose is publishing of mine this year is called It Is As If Desire. It's a collection of, I think, around 60 occasional, mostly love poems, all of which are 10 lines each. So I'll read 4 of them. They're all very short. First is called Over the Hill and Very Far Away. When we went to North Carolina, the price of a vanilla milkshake went down to under $3 a gallon. So we drove and drove until the mountains became large buildings guarded by bullfrogs and college boys on cell phones. That's when I knew the road really would rise up to meet us. The potato salad and ribs would just keep coming. Our haircuts, I know now, shall always look spectacular, and our pants fit perfectly, as you and I forever glide home, safe and never sorry. Thus it is told. I know what to do when the kettle boils over. I fill it again. Your day is here. It is yours alone. I implore the rain god to assist you in your work. I offer supplications to the spirit of the kitchen, the bedroom, the bathroom. O spirit, allow her dreams to rise up into the clear day. Make all that is absent be all that is present. Free all that you have placed within her being, and let it rise like smoke over the blue mountain. Let suffering fly off like a hawk in the whirlwind. This one, most of them are, as I said, are occasional poems, although the occasion is not necessarily apparent from the poem. But this one is definitely a birthday poem. It's called LX, or 60 for you non-Romans. Let the message go out into the supermarkets, emergency rooms, produce stands. Tell the dentist, the governor, the handyman. Pot roast will be cooked. London broil shall be consumed. Cake will be lit and eaten. Meanwhile, money keeps piling up around us. We play our instruments on magic carpets. We like the kind of time that you wind up and set free, the minutes released from captivity, all to celebrate your most awesome nativity. And then finally, hearts of truest metal. I passed a lighted door. I keep saying Paris, Dublin, but all you think is Italy. The door is almost closed. I will not beg on street corners. I will always come up with the gravy we crave. I make music on a clown's toy guitar while the naked mountains into slumber fall and the fairest shades provide no shade at all. I am locked in a cage of books with a kick drum and a box of photos of poor men at their pleasure, and you, sleeping high above me, are all I need of treasure. Thank you.
Beautiful. And next, Rebecca Suzuki.
Thank you. I will read from my book called When My Mother Is Most Beautiful, published last month. And I will share a couple of entries. The first one is called An Interaction at a Konbini. And just for context, they're written bilingually in Japanese and in English. I walk into a konbini, the irashaimase, and cold air rushing towards me, the sediments of familiarity settling on the bottom of my stomach. I have been here before and before. I walk around the space, the aisles of potato chips in colorful bags filled mostly with air, the fridges and freezers with microwavable single meals, the ice creams I can taste on my tongue because I tasted them again and again sitting on the floor of my aunt's house as a child. I pick something up, maybe a cold bottle of green tea for my endless walking, or a salmon onigiri I want to snack on, and I carry it over to the cashier, the ones that fake a smile and happiness all day, probably exhausted inside but never showing it. And I put the things I want to buy on the counter and I say, onegai shimasu. And all of a sudden, the cashier looks at me in shock, widens their eyes, flusters and fights the rolling pebbles in their mouth, trying to find the words to communicate with me, to continue being the perfect cashier they were trained to be. And they say something like, would you bag? chopsticks in English, and I answer, daijoubu desu in Japanese, but they hesitate for a long time, staring at the foreign in me, the white in me, and their glance moves its way over to the machine at the amount of money I owe, trying to translate the numbers in their mind. 650 yen maybe, and I wait, feeling strange, feeling unhelpful, feeling like an imposter, feeling alien, feeling like maybe I'm doing something I shouldn't. And I start looking through my wallet for the money that I owe, and at the same time that I pull out my crisp 1,000 yen bill with the face of Hideo Noguchi on it, the bacteriologist who discovered the agent of syphilis as the cause of paralytic disease, the erratic, volatile researcher who conducted questionable human experiments at the Rockefeller Institute in New York, I hear 650 yen, please. And I nod deeply, smile a little bit, and say, arigatou gozaimasu. And then the next entry I will share is called Stone in the Light. In a hat with a wide rim, Auntie, my aunt, is gently digging the earth with a small shovel to plant seeds for cucumbers, eggplant, peppers, and berries. The vegetables and fruits that, when ripened, she will pick and cook and peel for me to eat. Here, open your mouth, she will say, her thin wooden chopsticks gently placing a piece of soft, cooked vegetable on my tongue. After sprinkling the tiny seeds, she covers them with the soft soil like a ritual repeated over and over, patting it down with her hands encased in white gloves. I am nearby, making up songs and words, naming things I don't know the names for. Occasionally, I race over to help her sprinkle seeds on my sweaty palm, pinching them with my fingers and letting them go into the depths of the earth to magically turn into roots, stems, leaves, flowers, fruits, vegetables. Okiku nare, I say, a phrase I learned maybe in preschool or from a picture book. After a while, I go back to the prancing and world making, and she says, arigato ne, as I run across the field. She goes back to planting, but glances up once in a while to check on me, to make sure I'm within her line of sight. She uses the back of her arm to wipe sweat from her forehead, or she waves to let me know she's following me with her eyes. Sometimes I stand behind and watch her from the back, crouched near the ground, glowing like a stone in the light. And on this stone, I trace endless circles of love before I can't take it anymore and I run up and embrace her from behind. Thank you.
It's nice hearing it again.
Thank you so much.
I guess I met you before, but it's good to see you again.
Yeah, great seeing you. Have a great evening.
Martine actually here. Martine, are you here? Not sure.
All right, have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Martine, are you here? Okay, gonna end the meeting.